Okay, WWE TLC 2020. A very interesting show, I'd have to say. Kind of confusing towards the end, but I wonder whether they're going to go with this. Anyway, there was a kickoff show match. I don't have a picture for it yet, so I don't know what I am going to come up with here, so hopefully this works. Anyway, it's an 8-man tag between Daniel Bryan, Otis, Chad Gable, and Big E against Sami Zayn, Shinsuke Nakamura, King Corbin, and Cesaro. I honestly can't remember the last time there was an 8-man tag on a WWE show. I want to say it was probably one of the cruiserweight things that was at a Royal Rumble once. I want to say in 2019. I may be wrong on that, but yeah. Anyway, this is probably the first time the main roster team has ever happened. And no, Survivor Series doesn't count. Anyway, right off the bat, Zayn demanded to face Big E, but he immediately tagged Corbin in. Big E hit a belly-to-belly on Corbin. Daniel Bryan tagged in. He took Cesaro basically hit him with a 2-leg takedown, but Bryan managed to convert that into kind of a pin attempt. Bryan hit Corbin with a missile drop kick. Then Zayn kind of distracted Big E, and this kind of big schmoz broke out. Otis managed to hit Nakamura with the Caterpillar. He and Gable went for a tag team maneuver, but Otis accidentally caught Gable, and then Corbin interfered on that, but oh no, Cesaro broke that up, I'm sorry. As this happened, Big E and Sami Zayn got back in the ring. Sami went for the Helluva kick, but Big E blocked it with a Uranagi and then hit the big ending for the 3 count in the victory. Not a spectacular match, pretty kickoff show worthy, and they have since announced that next Friday, though it's actually on tape, Sami Zayn is going to be putting up the Intercontinental Championship against Big E. I'm guessing we're probably going to get a title change there. Just reading the way the wind blows, I mean, they want to push Big E right now, so it seems rather obvious. Yeah, like I said, the match itself wasn't too spectacular. It was okay. Worked pretty well. Like there weren't a lot of botches or anything. Yeah, we'll get to the main show next up, I guess. That was the TLC match for the WWE Championship, Drew McIntyre versus AJ Styles. Styles immediately targeted McIntyre's knee that he injured on Raw this past week. McIntyre came back, he hit a belly-to-belly suplex and tossed Styles into a ladder. At that point, they began brawling on the outside, and Onos, who's Styles' bodyguard, was basically, McIntyre told him to get out of the way so he could whip Styles across the table that had a couple chairs mounted on it, and Onos basically allowed him to do that, which kind of makes him a bad bodyguard, don't you think? Eventually Styles began to fight back. Styles used a ladder to lock on a calf crusher, then used a chair to lock on a calf crusher. He tried to set McIntyre up on a table and I guess tried to do a 450, but McIntyre managed to grab a chair and throw it and knock Styles off the top rope. It seemed like they were fighting on Styles hit a phenomenal forearm. He was climbing the ladder, but McIntyre pulled him off, gorilla press slammed him through a table. McIntyre then began climbing the ladder, and it's then that The Miz and John Morrison hit the ring. They powerbombed McIntyre off the ladder, and Miz cashed in his Money in the Bank, making this thing a triple threat match now. A triple threat TLC match, to be more precise. But then, as this was happening, Miz tried to climb the ladder as both Styles and McIntyre were out, and then almost got in the ring and threw Miz through a table. He then chased off Morrison, who hit him with a chair, and the chair just broke. And so, yeah, he chased off Morrison. At that point, Styles and McIntyre revived. They began fighting on the ladder. Miz joined in. They all kind of get knocked around a little bit. McIntyre managed to get knocked down, and then Styles and Miz were brawling. He toppled Styles out of the ring, and then he hit Miz with the Claymore, and then climbed the ladder to achieve the championship. Okay, so, yeah, that got a little car crashy towards the end there. The match itself, it was okay. It was a little too slow. Not a lot of really high impact stuff, and admittedly, once Miz hit the ring and cashed in, he's like, wow, you really timed this poorly if you're doing it in the middle of the match. Like, this isn't WrestleMania when he did it, when Seth Rollins did it, right as Reigns was starting to land, punches on Lesnar, and looked like maybe it was turning the tide in the match so Rollins could sneak in and maybe get a sneaky victory. In this case, he cashed it right in the middle of a ladder match and right in front of Styles' bodyguard, so you knew he was going to interfere. So, again, this just didn't flow well. Like, wouldn't it have made more sense to have Miz cash in after the match? Exactly. I mean, when you have him do it right in the middle, you're pretty much telegraphing that he wasn't going to win. That's basically what I'm saying right there. Okay, our next match is the SmackDown Women's Championship match between Sasha Banks and Carmella. Right off the bat, Carmella feigned a wardrobe malfunction to try to avoid having the match start on time. Eventually Sasha got in. She had an arm drag off the apron. Sasha then tossed Carmella into Reginald, that's her sommelier, Carmella's sommelier. Sasha hit, right here, a snapmare into a Meteora, sorry. Carmella hit a hair pull slam on the apron. Sasha hit another Meteora and then followed that with Three Amigos, then a frog splash. Sasha went for a tilt-a-whirl slam, but Carmella fell out of that, hit a Bella Buster. Carmella tried to lock on the Cone of Silence. She locked on a Tarantula hold briefly. Sasha tried to put on the Cone of Silence, the Bank Statement. She fought out of that. Carmella did get the Cone of Silence on. Sasha fought out of that, locked on the Bank Statement, and that's when Reginald pulled Carmella out of the ring. At this point, it provided just enough of a distraction for Carmella to hit a couple super kicks, another Bella Buster. She tried to go for the Cone of Silence, but Sasha managed to counter that into a Bank Statement, and this time Carmella tapped out. This was a really good match. This was really well done. Total great story. Carmella came across as a very, very viable threat for the Women's Championship. Like, there was some sneakiness involved, but you could think at some point it's going to work through and the sneakiness is going to be in her favor. Sorry, I had a little interruption there. Anyway, Sasha looked very strong in the match. She wasn't falling for any Carmella's shenanigans, but you think, again, like, the shenanigans are going to crack through at some point, and eventually Carmella's going to catch Sasha off guard and maybe even, beat her. Carmella is a very good heel in this aspect. The basically knockoff Sasha Banks is really working for her. Sorry for that break there. I really needed to get something to drink. Talking at this level is really hard on my throat. Anyway, our next match is the Raw Tag Team Championship match. The New Day versus the Hurt Business. In this case, Cedric Alexander and Shelton Benjamin. Right off the bat, Alexander walked right into a kick from Kofi. Kofi and Xavier began to isolate Alexander. Eventually, Alexander managed to fight out. Benjamin kind of blind tag in, and at that point, Alexander rolled out of the ring, and MVP gave him a water bottle to try to catch up his breath. Xavier fought back against Benjamin a little bit. Xavier, until Benjamin threw him headfirst into the turnbuckle, but Xavier came back in as Enziguri. Kofi got the hot tag. Alexander kind of blind tagged back and walked right into an SOS, and then he dodged a Trouble in Paradise, and hit a brain buster. At this point, Benjamin blind tagged in, fought with Kofi a little bit. Kofi went for a top rope maneuver, and excuse me. Kofi went for a top rope maneuver, but Benjamin caught him and hit a superplex. At that point, Alexander blind tagged in and hit the lumbar check for the 3 count and the victory. Afterwards, they kind of Benjamin looked a little peeved because he thought he was going to get the pin there because he was going to go for pay dirt, but Alexander hit it, and everyone kind of, after realizing they had won, they sort of celebrated. Lashley came out, and again, there was more celebration. The match itself was all right, but I am kind of glad that they finally got the tag team championships off of the New Day. Again, like, New Day have been 10-time tag team champions at this point. It's time for someone new. Okay, it's okay. You know, they can. New Day are strong enough. They don't need the championships for a long time. So if they're for a while, you know, I'd like to start seeing some other things pop up with this, and putting on the Hurt Business in one helps elevate Cedric Alexander as a heel, because now you really see him acting even more aggressively than usual. Yeah, you know, they even mentioned it during the kickoff show. Like, Booker T was talking with MVP, and he says, like, you know, I've known Cedric. He always just seemed to be lacking that edge, and I think you're helping to instill that in him, you know, because we're both from the hood, and, you know, you need to kind of have that, you know, that dog fight mentality, that pit bull mentality sometimes. It's like, yeah, you know, Cedric's starting to really embrace it. You know, unfortunately, he kind of embraces it too far. He's know when to measure it, and you kind of see this in the match where he's constantly doing things really aggressively, and it's almost catches him. So that's actually working out really well, and I do look forward to hopefully a lengthy run for the Hurt Business here. Okay, our next match is the Women's Tag Team Championship match. Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax versus Asuka and a mystery partner who's replacing Lana, who they wrote off with an injury on Raw this week. I've heard reports that she's actually, you know, really injured, so, you know, it is kind of a shame, because they were sort of building the idea that Lana was going to actually do something and, you know, gain a victory over Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler and take their championships from them, but now it's just, yeah, kind of all gone for naught. However, the tag team partner winds up being Charlotte Flair. Not really too much of a surprise, because I think everyone pretty much realized, oh, I guess they're bringing back Charlotte, because that's about the only viable choice at this point. I mean, you know, Ronda Rousey keeps saying she's coming back, but, you know, it didn't happen, obviously. You know, Becky just had her baby, so that wasn't going to be an option, and it's like, you know, Asuka's not going to pick Peyton Royce or Mandy Rose or Dana Brooke. It just doesn't work. Like, Charlotte, at least, there's kind of that history with Asuka, so I think that all works. Anyway, right off the bat, Asuka basically managed to use a lot of the catch wrestling that Shayna Baszler utilizes. Managed to have some counter holds for it. Asuka and Charlotte double teamed Nia Jax for a while. Jax whipped Asuka into the ring barricade. Baszler attempted to break up Asuka Charlotte tag. She pulled Charlotte off of the ring apron. Charlotte fought back and got the tag anyway. Charlotte went for a figure 8 on Shayna, but Nia Jax interfered. Shayna went for the rear naked choke. Charlotte rolled out of that and hit the natural selection for the 3 count of the victory. Again, not too surprising that Asuka and Charlotte are now tag team champions. I do wonder where this is going to go exactly. I will say this, Charlotte looked pretty good. Probably the best she's looked in quite a while. Like, I think the time off really did help her a lot. She looked, fit. She wasn't tired. She wasn't haggard. She looked ready for in-ring action. Everything flowed really well, so there were not a lot of botches. So the match itself was good. It's just, again, it was a little too predictable. Like I said, especially, you're not bringing Charlotte back to lose. So, yeah, again, and everyone kind of knew it was Charlotte at this point. So, yeah, just fine, but, again, predictable. And that leads us into our next match, the TLC match for the Universal Championship. Roman Reigns versus Kevin Owens. Right off the bat, basically right as Reigns put the championship on the ladder pulley, Owens jumped him, even before his intro music hit. Owens hit a couple cannonballs, with the second one being into the ring barricade. Owens hit a frog splash from the apron. So at this point, Jey Uso interfered for the first of many times, pulled Owens off the ladder, both Owens and Jey Uso and Roman Reigns began pelting Owens with a chair, and then Owens fought back. He actually countered a super kick by hitting Jey in the ankle with a chair. So Jey began selling an ankle injury. The doctors came down to check him out, and that allowed Reigns to hit a drive-by drop kick on Owens. Reigns attacked with the ring steps. He tossed Owens. He drove a ladder into Owens' chest. But Owens came back here, a fisherman suplex into a chair. Sorry. Jay interfered again, which allowed Roman Reigns to hit a Superman punch on Owens. Owens hit Reigns with a stunner. Owens powerbombed Jay through the announce table. Reigns then raked Owens' eye when they were on the ladder. Reigns powerbombed Owens onto a ladder. He then chokeslammed Owens through a table. He then speared Owens through another table. He attempted to spear Owens again through the barricade, but Owens dodged it. Owens powerbombed Reigns through a table. Jay interfered one more time. This allowed Roman Reigns to low blow Kevin Owens on the ladder and then do a guillotine on the ladder to choke Owens out, and then enabled Roman to grab the championship and win. Again, this match was probably a little too predictable as well, but definitely was, I think, the better of the two TLC matches, because this one was just high impact. That kind of car crash mentality you want in the TLC match. This had all the impact. Jay's interference actually worked, and he didn't look really stupid. He actually benefited from the interference at this point. Now he and Roman seem to be working together a bit more. It's not just, Reigns is using Jay as a lackey. I think it's told a good story. I mean, everything worked. Reigns is so over as a heel right now. It's just everything's chugging along. I mean, admittedly, Kevin Owens is the type of character who works much better as a heel than a babyface, but even in this case, it worked still. This was a really darn good match. This was my pick for match of the night. I thought this really, really worked well. And that leads us into our main event for the evening, the Firefly Inferno match between The Fiend, Bray Wyatt, and Randy Orton. Basically, this was just an Inferno match. The idea was to set your opponent on fire. However, this was a little different. Normally in the Inferno matches, it's just this guardrail that goes around the ring that catches on fire. In this case, at one point, The Fiend roared, and basically the whole arena caught on fire. There was a big thing around the barricade. There were these pillars of fire that were going up. There was fire around the announce tables. So and there was fire that was later introduced in the match, which we'll get to. Like I said, the Thunderdome was dancing to the Fiend's entrance as well. Orton actually came out in full clothing rather than just wrestling trunks, which add a level of intrigue to the match. So, everyone said, well, Orton has to beat the Fiend because he only wrestles in trunks, so he's not going to. So you're not going to throw a guy's bare skin into fire. That's just stupid. But then Orton came out in a hoodie and a pair of jeans, and it's like, oh, maybe he is going to catch on fire. Maybe. Anyway, the Fiend fought out. Orton went for Fiend went for a Sister Abigail. Orton fought out of that. He had a drop kick. But the Fiend came back. He had a Sister Abigail, he had an Uranagi. Like I said, he screams and the arena caught on fire at that point. The Fiend then got some leather straps out. He whipped Orton with them. He then took one of them and set that on fire and tried to whip Orton with it, but Orton dodged. The Fiend had the old Bray Wyatt rocking chair, which he set Orton in and then covered it in gasoline and let a trail of gasoline to it, and Orton just barely dodged out of it. Orton came back. He had a few moves again. He beat the Fiend with a lead pipe. And then tried to choke him out with a chain and pull him into the fire. The Fiend fought free again. Orton hit a hangman DDT off the apron. He went for an RKO, but the Fiend blocked it. They were fighting. And eventually, Orton managed to push the Fiend into the fire and set him on fire. He hit an RKO in the middle of the ring, and the fire actually went out, and it looked like the Fiend was dead. I guess this is where the match ended. I'm not entirely sure because there was just kind of dead silence. So they didn't really say what was going on or anything. It just kind of confused me. And eventually Orton again checked to see if the Fiend was alive. He then grabbed a can of gasoline, poured it on the Fiend, and set it on fire. And it looked like the Fiend was basically burned alive. Burned to a crisp. So, again, I do wonder where they're going to go with this, but, yeah, it looked kind of intense, and overall I think they did a good job of making this match feel a little different, have a eerie feel to it, and that all worked. Again, just the ending was so kind of, was it over? Was it not over? I wasn't entirely sure. Yeah, the audio problems with WWE Network are still there, where I have to listen to the German audio because that's the only one that seems to come through now. I know I'm not the only one. I've looked this up online. I still haven't figured out what exactly is going on with it. But yeah, again, just like it did a good job, a little bit of telling the story. I thought there was definitely some intense images, and again, when Orton came out in the ordinary trunk, in his ordinary clothing instead of his ring gear, it did make it look like, oh hey, maybe things would be a little different, and I did think that worked pretty well. But again, just a little clunky towards the end. Still, overall, I did really kind of enjoy TLC 2020. I thought, again, none of the matches were outright bad. There was, you know, the kickoff match was boring, and, you know, some of them were just a little confusing and a little plotting in some places. Like the women's tag match, again, was a little too predictable. You know, the first ladder match was, it got a little too confusing at some points. And again, the main event just got a little convoluted at the end, but still, like, most of the matches were still pretty enjoyable. I still had fun watching them. So, yeah, I think I'm just going to give TLC 2020 a B. Like, I can't obviously give it an A. It's not that good. But it was a good, solid watch. I thought I enjoyed it pretty well. So, again, yeah, a B just seems fine enough. Okay, so I'm hoping by Wednesday I'll get the Mandalorian Season 2 review properly up. I have not watched the last 2 episodes yet. My 40th birthday was on Friday, so that took a lot of time. Obviously, I also had to finish up with some holiday shopping. I had a big Zoom chat with a lot of people from my family I haven't seen in a long time, so again, it took up a lot of the weekend. You know, then this was on, you know, I'm technically recording this on Monday, so you know, TLC was on Sunday. It's like I needed a little day to decompress a little. I'm also in the middle of scripting the random trade review. Not to mention I want to get a few still shots for the Season 2 Mandalorian review so that, again, things can look a little more accurate. I know some people have taken me to task for not having, or only having the initial trailer stuff, pictures, I guess, if you understand what I'm saying there. I'm tired. Like I said, it's nothing too bad. Again, just kind of a big weekend right now. Obviously, you know, Christmas is coming up too. I'll try to, like I said, I'll try to get the Mandalorian review out before Christmas. I will also probably review Soul, but again, that's going to be after Christmas. Again, just need a little time to space these out a little bit. And in between that will be the random trade review on Aphrodite 9 Volume 1. See you all next time. Hey guys, remember to check out my Patreon at patreon.com/SleepyTime for Cat Productions, where you can help me expand my wrestling coverage to stuff beyond WWE, NXT, and the occasional AEW free show.